Yeah, you're at the epilogue again. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but I was really fond of that epilogue. But some really good dialogue in there. But Space Pew Pew, and I think I've heard this from a lot of people, even more famous for a lot of fun going
Yeah.
on there. So
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit more about just your process for nailing dialogue and any advice you would have for anyone trying to do the same, especially with a lot of characters, and stuff happening on the side.
Right. Okay. So I'm always like a little reticent about just offering writing advice because I'm like, who am I? But I do have a knack for dialogue, and I do have a certain way that I approach it. So just maybe if I share that, like if that also works for somebody, cool. As long as it gives you ideas and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna tell you there's a right or wrong way thing.
Mhm.
Just how I do it. But the main thing for me is trying to nail it's these little notes of color within the dialogue. So like you can have two characters that are arguing back and forth. And you said this, no, I didn't say that, and you're a so and so, and oh, you're going to call me a so and so, you're a like whatever. So you're developing like that kind of dynamic or rapport or whatever. So one of the things that I enjoy doing is whatever I would throw into straight up unquoted exposition, I just have the characters referencing it in the course of an argument or a back and forth. So as they're going back and forth arguing about one thing or the other, well, now he's going to bring up something from 15 years ago and only allude to it. And then he's going to react, I can't believe you're bringing that back up, so on and so forth, because that gives a certain type of depth to those characters going back and forth.
Mhm.
And it's just a little nod to there's a lot to their story, that this argument just kind of like would highlight if they're starting to throw in little things just like you would in a typical argument with somebody that you've been in a relationship for a very long time. Inevitably something from 8 years ago is going to be brought up, like, I'm sorry I left the toilet seat up and I know you fell in and it was a bad evening, but so like these little things that you can throw in, so I don't have to explain their background. I don't have to touch on it in any kind of a narrative way. I'm just going to have them do it in their toxic back and forth, as two characters that can't live without each other and can't stand to be around each other at the same time.
Mhm.
So for me, all of the dialogue is about those relationships. It's about highlighting how certain characters act and react and everything else. It I use the dialogue to tell the story and to color the characters, I guess, is the main thing. And I think it works. Also reading it aloud, and if there's any spot where you feel like it's not perfectly smooth,
Mhm.
the reader, as a reading it, will think that that's not perfectly smooth. So I make sure when I read and I read aloud that it flows really, really well, and it just sounds like I'm telling a story, and I don't need to add a he said or she said to clarify anything.
Mhm. Yeah, good point. Because nothing is worse than losing track of who is speaking.
Right,
In the
Yeah.
middle of that.
right.
Yeah, which
And I
sometimes can mean you haven't nailed a unique enough voice for that character, but then sometimes it just means you haven't given enough cues for them.
yeah, I mean, in Space Pew Pew, it's easy because Toshiro's all caps. So like
You know. Yep.
and I
Which
also
is
like
why you are our first guest.
there's other parts as well. I don't know if either of you made it far enough to get to Boom Boom. But he's my violent capybara commander,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, okay.
And I have like this capybara civilization. Like they were just like, an ancient history thrown on a planet. They just ended up reproducing like crazy, developing intelligence, and all of a sudden they have a society, and they're guarding one of the most mineral rich planets like in the universe. So, they end up developing a society structured around organization, war, and everything else to protect the resources, like, stuff like this. So, anyway, I thought one of the fun things that I wanted to do was anytime a capybara character is talking, there's two of them that have like lines in the book. They only ever speak in sentences of 4 words.
Hmm.
And it was a blast to try and condense their dialogue down to make it funny, where just every sentence is precisely 4 words. So like it seems a little stilted the way they talk and everything else. And then I thought it might be fun in the second book as a gag to have like the capybara's internal monologue, or maybe him journaling, and it's just like beautifully written prose and like everything else, but he only speaks with 4-word sentences.
That's good.
Yeah.
Extremely
That's fantastic.
long-winded, eloquent,
Right. Yeah. Oh,
purpley prose on
absolutely.
the inside,
Very
and then
because,
4
like,
words.
impressionist painting style, like,
That's so
yeah, yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
I
And,
love
and
those little touches, finding those little creative touches, and
right. And like you don't have to plan the entire story out and the entire history of your characters to just have them mention something that they would know. It's an inside thing. You're privy to seeing their uh you're privy to seeing their relationship in such a cool way in that moment.
yeah,
Logan, I appreciate the boom boom love, man. For sure.
those characters.
I got boom boom stickers coming.
Uh,
Where he's got a little bubble and all he's saying is your violence is bad.